Hello everyone and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, and today we're going to go over the top 10 decks in Marvel Snap. We're going to tier them and we're going to give you decks for the weekend missions. We do this every Friday. Sometimes the meta has not changed a lot between weeks. This meta is an insane shakeup. The entire meta feels very different than it did even just a few days ago. Let's get ready and get started with our first deck in the S tier. The S tier this week is a grand total of one deck. I think it is a standalone deck, but it is one that very few people have. In order to talk about this deck, we must first talk about Kid Omega. I know that a lot of people parachute in for this video, trying to use this video as their guide for the week, so for anyone who missed it, Kid Omega is the quote-unquote prize of the new mode not Sanctum Showdown. It is the prize of High Voltage Overdrive. Sanctum Showdown starts in about 2 weeks, so I've already been starting my prep work for it. But Kid Omega is a 2-1 activate. Destroy the next card you play this turn to gain its power. It is immediately one of the best cards in all of Marvel Snap, and it goes in what I think is right now the best deck in Marvel Snap. Very few people seem to own this card. I know of about 4 content creators who own it and about 5 other players. That's because you cannot get it for free in the new mode. The new mode can make it cheaper, but if you just want to buy the card, you're spending around $100. In order to make it significantly cheaper as well, you're either going to have to wait till the end of the event, or really spend heavily. This is Marvel Snap's first and most pay-to-win card ever. It is so bad. Longtime viewers, I've never made a drama video. I've never made a here's what Marvel Snap Second Dinner is doing wrong and why they suck video. I'm doing a video tomorrow where I go over all the current problems because I think we might be headed on a bad path, and I want to do my best to bring awareness to curtail it so that Second Dinner curtails it before it gets any worse. But Kid Omega is right now absolutely incredible, and it sucks not owning him because he is so incredibly strong. This deck in particular is the deck right now. We covered this in great detail in yesterday's video. I think this is the tier 1 deck in Marvel Snap. I do think there are things we can do to combat it once it becomes more prominent in the meta. However, as so few people have Kid Omega, it's extremely hard to play around and against right now. You basically have to hope that you're running Red Guardian and you've Red Guardian Kid Omega, because outside of that, this puts up more power than basically anything but Mr. Negative. The creator of this list is CamBest. You can find CamBest at twitch.tv/CamBestMS. He's also CamBest in his Snap on YouTube, where he has a video about this very deck if you want to check it out. Our friend and yours, Zadrek74, had a very similar deck the day before this card came out. This is an incredible and super powerful deck that, I mean, when you can get the card, which seems like for most people it's going to be July 16th, you should probably get this card. Kid Omega, Elixir, Symbiote Spider-Man, and Galacta are your needed cards here. I feel so vindicated for Elixir being good. I was like, I think Elixir is really close to being good and will be good with Kid Omega, and now I think a lot of people are going to be reaching for that Elixir once they can get Kid Omega. Iron Lad can be Crystal, Magic, or Deathlock. Surge can be Zabu or one of the above cards. If you're worried about Red Guardian, don't hesitate to play a Sam Wilson and just play your Kid Omega in that lane, and then you are Red Guardian proof. Cool. Alright, let's go through card by card. Kid Omega is one of 3 destroy cards in the list, along with Carnage and Venom. Kid Omega is the best destroy card in this list by a factor of a bajillion-ish. So what Kid Omega allows you to do is fundamentally play Nimrod and immediately destroy it. A played Nimrod is usually vulnerable to quite a few cards. Fairly often it's vulnerable to a Juggernaut. Fairly often it's vulnerable to like other cards just getting in the way, an armor drop, whatever. You can play Kid Omega wherever, Cosmo. You can play Kid Omega wherever, Nimrod it, and it's immediately destroyed. Unless they armor that exact lane with priority, that exact turn, there's very little they can do to stop that. The other thing Kid Omega lets you do is you play Kid Omega on Black Panther. Kid Omega is going to then become a 2/10. 2 bigger if you've got a Shuri, Galacta, or Symbiote Spider-Man in order to make this combo happen. After that, you play Elixir, and you get an unbelievably ungodly game-winning and lane-winning Elixir on the last turn of the game that brings back that Black Panther. You can then still play other cards to try and win other lanes. You can do that and play like a Symbiote Spider-Man, for example. You can do that and play an Iron Lad, for example. You can do basically anything in the deck but play Zola on that turn in order to get a ton of extra power. That's wild and crazy strong. Obviously, Carnage and Venom still give you the 2 ways you want to destroy that Nimrod after you play Kid Omega, which is very useful. You can also still Zola that Nimrod. Cool. There are times when you're going to be able to, or you're going to be able to take a 50-50 on bringing back, on hitting a Black Panther with Arnim Zola as well. That's the use of those cards. Surge just lets you get some extra cards out. Elixir is very often going to be your last turn play. Again, your Black Panther and Nimrod will be destroyed. If you only have one extra destroy on your Nimrod, right? You only have Venom or Carnage. You can now Elixir to bring back an extra Nimrod and then eat that with a Venom or Carnage, getting an extra proc, an extra copy of that Nimrod back. Tons of cool stuff you can do with that card. Shuri, Galacta, and Symbiote Spider-Man are your buff cards. They are meant to make that Black Panther and Nimrod bigger. Having 2 targets here is huge. And then, of course, we have Iron Lad, who's generally meant to be Black Panther and Nimrod, but hey, hitting one of those buff cards is still really strong. Using it to try and hit an Elixir or Kid Omega is still really strong, right? Turn 4, you play Iron Lad, and you hit Kid Omega. You're perfectly fine to then play a Nimrod or Black Panther and go to town. There's so many things you can do with this card and this deck. It is just the best. The solo S tier deck. We're going to have to figure out what to do with it once Kid Omega becomes more prevalent. So turn 1 pass, turn 2 Omega over Surge. Turn 3 is the same as 2. You're going to drop a Galacta or Symbiote early if you can. Turn 4, Galacta over Symbiote or Shuri. And by the way, I didn't know this yesterday. Omega is a snap condition. If you don't think they have Red Guardian for whatever reason, I think Kid Omega is a snap condition. Turn 4 is Galacta, Symbiote, or Shuri over Lad. Galacta is often the best of those. 9 power is very often enough. Or 16 power on that Panther is often enough. Symbiote and Shuri are more power, but you don't often need that more power. Turn 5, Nimrod and Trigger Omega over Panther and Trigger Omega. Please snap on those. You can also play Lad if you don't have Nimrod or Panther and see if you get lucky and hit Nimrod or Panther. Enjoy. Turn 6, if Nimrod, destroy it twice more or Zola it. Panther, you can Zola it, or if you destroy the Panther, you can use Elixir and a 4-drop. And that's it, friends. That's just kind of it. This list is 3 crap tons of power. It just wrecks basically every mid-range deck. You would think Shadow King would be an answer. Shadow King does not answer this nearly enough, at least in my early experience. I think this list is crazy. This is an incredibly strong and consistent list. That is going to be a problem once everyone has Kid Omega. Period. It will set the meta, but luckily the Kid Omega availability is keeping it rare. Before we go further, we are going to do our very best. I think I might have a way to give away the Merlin Season Pass. We are giving away a PAX code this week, but we'll be giving away a Merlin Season Pass starting this video. So if you're interested in a Merlin Season Pass, comment on this video. We're going to start that entry to the giveaway. If you want a PAX code, what you have to go subscribe to for our PAX code is you want to go over to Comic Book Click, CLIQUE, Comic Book Click, and watch my video and comment that video there. Someone who comments there is going to get a PAX code this Tuesday. If you want a Season Pass, we're going to do a giveaway of a Season Pass. So you have to do a sub, like, and comment on this video if you want a free Merlin. On to the A tier, which is, I believe, 3 decks. First of which is the Chamo deck. This is the best mid-range deck in Marvel Snap right now, in my opinion. Chamo has hit rank 3 with it. This is just all the good cards together, singing together, being absolutely killer in most matchups. You can find Chamo at twitch.tv/Chamo92. He is a Spanish speaker. He does speak English, but his stream is primarily Spanish, so go check him out. This deck needs Surge, Gwenpool, Galacta, Fenris, and Gladiator. Merlin can be Kate Bishop or Shadow King, but Merlin is the best card in slot by an awful lot here. If you're looking for a slightly different build of the same take, this Loki Werewolf version from Sizer is still quite good. I don't think it's quite as good as the list as the Chamo list, but it is still a powerful list. Let's talk about the cards in this one. So Zabu and Surge are here for your 4-drops. Getting 4 drops to 3 or 2 has 2 real benefits. First, getting Galacta or Gwenpool out early is an incredible snap condition. It is a game-winning play and something you very often want to do in Marvel Snap. The other thing is having Galacta or Enchantress down to 3 gives them extra power on the last turn of the game. On the last turn of the game, being able to play Shang or an Enchantress together, or either one of those cards with Killmonger or Gladiator, for example, is just so strong. Even when you can't do that, though, you do have Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister hit by Gwenpool or Galacta will double their buffs. A 2-10, at least a 2-8 with 1 Gwenpool hit. That is a very, very powerful play when you're controlling power through Shang or Enchantress as well. Sinister was like the sleeper hit to add to this deck that made it extra powerful. We talked about Surge. Fenris Wolf gives you a way to compete into a lot of decks. It also gives you a way to compete into the Black Panther play line if you can keep priority. Although your opponent would have to be fairly foolish to play it with Fenris on the board. If you play, for example, a Fenris and Killmonger on turn 5, and you can gain priority, you can take back their Black Panther before they can do anything about that. Fenris is very strong for that. It's obviously here as well really good with Shang-Chi and Gladiator. The Gladiator is a little bit more dangerous now on turn 3 because of the prevalence of the Nightmare decks. Pulling 10 drops isn't ideal, but you do have Shang-Chi for that and Fenris Wolf to get those big cards back for yourself. Merlin is here for several reasons. Obviously, the general power of the spells is really nice, being able to change locations, being able to have extra energy going to the last turn, getting rid of a Zabu going to the last turn, a Surge, a used Killmonger into the last turn is incredibly useful. A Mobius when it's not doing anything. The other thing it does that's really, really strong is, let's say you want to go with that Sinister Shang Enchantress last turn, but you have 1 extra energy through either Surge or Zabu, right? The Merlin Transform spell to use a Shang or Enchantress and then turn it into a 5-drop is incredibly, incredibly useful. So Merlin has a ton of real uses in this deck. Killmonger is just sort of underrated right now. Even the 10s decks are running a lot of 1-drops. There's just a lot of 1-drops floating around, and Killmonger's great for that. One of the ways that previous deck, the S tier deck, is going to be stopped is through decks that Mobius stops. Stuff like Mr. Negative. You're going to see Mr. Mobius and Mobius, I believe, 1 time this whole video. It is this deck, although it can be played in Thanos Ongoing, which, spoiler, is also here. So because of those things, Mobius is in the list, right? Because there's so much less Mobius, having Mobius allows you to be a predator and snap back on a lot of very, very powerful and prevalent decks. We talked about Gladiator. Shang's power must be controlled, and Enchantress's ongoings must be controlled in very obvious ways. Galacta and Gwenpool are how you get power. If you don't see Galacta or Gwenpool, you're fairly often going to end up retreating with this deck. You do want to see one of those cards on turn 4. Without those cards, there's just not a lot of power to this one. However, you do have Galacta and Gwenpool, so you have enough power to compete in games of Snap. This is right now rank 3. Chamo's currently rank 3, playing largely this list. Turn 1, you want Zabu, and turn 2, you have Surge. If you have Surge and Zabu and you don't think your opponent has Mobius, you're fairly good to snap, but it can be dangerous. Merlin over Fenris are generally the other turn 2 plays. Fenris ideally comes out turn 5, so it's more of a surprise. Turn 3, Galacta or Gwenpool, if you can get them early, they are a snap. Over Gladiator, over Mobius. If you can tell what your opponent is playing, and Mobius is a backbreaking card for them, Mobius goes all the way up the list. Turn 4, Galacta or Gwenpool. If Gwenpool has the right things, it can be a snap. Galacta can be a snap, but be careful. Again, this deck does not win through putting up a ton of power. You're going to want to make sure you have Galacta and are throwing Prio, usually, in order to snap him. Turn 5, you've got control cards in it too. Sometimes that's going to be Shang or Enchantress, sometimes that'll be Killmonger, once in a while it'll be Gladiator. You want to make sure that 2 is Fenris here if possible, because this is your last turn to play Fenris or activating, while Surge and Merlin are sort of mid at this point. Turn 6, Shang or Enchantress, plus whatever. We're talking usually a Sinister, sometimes turning some cards into 5 or 4 drops with the proper Merlin spells. If you've thrown Prio and this works, again, you can snap it effectively. This list is wildly good. If I had to pick a mid-range deck to play in Marvel Snap, this is almost without a doubt it. It plays all the right tech control cards. This is, if you loved Tech Thanos, if you were really enjoying those Strange Supreme Tech Thanos lists, this is probably the evolution of that list. This is where you want to go right now. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, we do this for at least 3 brand new decks every single day. Please make sure you sub, like, and comment. It really helps the channel out a huge amount. So if you're willing to try and help us hit 25,000 subs in 2025, we've never missed a day since we started this channel. So if you were willing to show some support, it would mean a lot. Next up, we've got the other sort of mid-rangey list. This is Honifer's list that he reached top 4 in the most recent Golden Gauntlet with. He hasn't changed the deck. I believe actually Sam may have changed, but I could be wrong. But this list is still completely crazy. It's still completely everywhere. And Honifer is, I believe, currently ranked 7 in the world with it. So this is a legit list. This deck needs Werewolf, Annihilus, and Merlin. Sam, Kate, and Surge are all replaceable. Any good one on reveal. Nico, Ham, Iceman, Spider-Man is perfectly fine as well. Alright, so if you would like a different version, a lot of people have been crediting our lovely friend. We love him. Lambi for this. Lambi did and does play a lot of this, but Proflucci, a major TikTok Italian streamer, created this list and reached the top 8 in the first Golden Gauntlet with it. So this is a list that is Proflucci's. But props to Lambi for, playing it and kicking butt with it, but it is Proflucci's. So cool. This is another version of it. If you don't want to run Agamotto, Agamotto is not everyone's cup of tea. So if you'd prefer to run this version is every bit as good. All right. So Yellow Jacket has several uses here. First, it's an extra 0 cost on reveal. That's amazing for Werewolf by Night. We're going to see more of that idea later in this video. But that's great for Werewolf by Night. It's also really, really great to make Sam's shield a -1, so you can send it over with a Nihilus. Its other use is to be shuffled back into the deck to get you +2 power. 3 real good uses for a powerful card. The Hood is here. It can be sent over by Viper. It can be transformed into a better card by Merlin, or it can be sent over by a Nihilus. Plus, having access to 1/6s is generally a thing we like to do in Marvel Snap. Sam Wilson is here. The shield is nice. It's just a decent card. You have ways to send the shield over as a rock that you can clog with, or a -1 that you can clog with, and just having access to a 2/6 is nice. He is the single most replaceable card of this list. Shadow King is your one tech spot here. It's just saying, I don't want you scaling over me. Shadow King is up and down in terms of meta impact. Sometimes you're going to see a lot of Surfer, which makes Shadow King great, right? Sometimes you're going to see a lot of Werewolf, where Shadow King is great. But sometimes you're going to run into just a lot of Nightmare stuff. You're going to run into other things where Shadow King is less good. It's a really powerful tech card, and it's the right cost for this deck in particular. Surge makes your cards cheaper. It's good. You have a lot of things you can just sort of play whenever, so it's pretty powerful. Kate gives you some more access. Kate gives you access to on reveals for Werewolf, while also giving you a little bit of extra clog for Mass and Hera. Merlin gives you a way to move Werewolf, while also not clogging spaces, while also giving you extra use for Yellow Jacket, the Hood, and Sam Wilson. Turning Sam Wilson into a 3 or his shield into a 3 is another option, or shuffling them for extra energy, giving you sort of a Wiccan-like effect for the list. Werewolf is your most powerful card in the list. It is like literally the highest points in the list in almost every game you play it. Sentry and Nihilus and Agamotto are nice. Werewolf almost always gets bigger than those, although Agamotto can compete. And it is hard to predict where it goes. It is incredibly strong here. Viper lets you send over that Void if you can't otherwise, lets you send over a Hood or a negative other thing. It's also amazing against Cerebro. If you're playing a Cerebro, even if you're playing a Cerebro 6, and Cerebro 6 is showing up a little bit, we'll talk about it in another video soon, but Viper over your Sentry, Viper over your Nihilus. Just say, okay, all your buffs are in that lane, and you can't beat me any other place. You can send over against Cerebro 2, send over a Hawkeye and laugh at them. Enjoy your extra cubes. Very, very powerful card right now. Sentry is really great as a 4/9 Shang-proof, as the most powerful you can get about being Shang-proof. And the Void it gives you can be sent over by the aforementioned Viper and Nihilus. And then, of course, our friend Merlin can turn it into a 5-drop or make it give us extra energy. We also have Agamotto's spell, the Images of Icon, that we can use on the Yellow Jacket, the Hood, the Void, and the Sam Wilson. So doing that is also pretty damn strong. Nihilus sends over the negative cards and makes them go away, which is obviously really nice. A 5/8 is also just D-stats. And then, of course, Agamotto. Images of Icon is amazing in this deck. You don't have a million good Images of Icon targets, but hey, if you can hit a Sentry late in the game, that's often going to be game-winning. Turning a bunch of things into demons, that's a potential 18 power lane out of nowhere. All that's really, really useful, especially because it has so many negative things it could hit. Getting the extra energy from Surge, from the Merlin spell, and from the Bolts of Balthak is really great. You're able to get some clog stuff going with Winds of Watum, and hey, you can always draw Agamotto in a pinch when you have extra energy, which also will move Werewolf by night. So all that stuff is really, really great, which leads us to a reason to run Agamotto, who is a card that got dropped from the meta way too fast and still really good. Rank 7 is Honifer. The first deck, the Cam Best is rank 9. Then we had the rank, deck. Rank 3 deck. Now we've got the rank 7 deck. We got a lot of top 10 decks right now. Turn 1, you want Hood, Yellow Jacket, and you want to save to be used in one of the ways described on the previous slide. Turn 2, Merlin or Sage is better than Sam, which is more or less equal to Kate. Kate if you have Werewolf, Sam if you have things to do with Sam's shield. Turn 3 is Werewolf over 2-drop. Turn 4 is Sentry over 2/2. And now if we start hitting like Bolts of Balthak, we can snap. Balthak on 4 into like Sentry and Annie suddenly is incredible. Annie Viper of Sentry, or you can still just drop Sentry here. Annie Viper, or you can combo stuff like Demon, Shadow King, Agamotto, so on. And just drop power, drop points, enjoy yourself. You're going to win a lot of games of Snap with this list. It is one of the better lists in the game with one of the highest win rates in the game. It's in the A tier for a reason, friends. We've got one more A tier deck, but first, if you're interested in checking out our Patreon, I only advertise this once a week. It is patreon.com/snapjudgments. We give you early access to videos. We do exclusive videos as much as humanly possible. I'm in the process of a major life change, a major move right now, so the exclusives have slowed down, but they're coming back in a huge way with a bunch of extra stuff as soon as I get settled. So get excited. Check out our Patreon at patreon.com/snapjudgments, please. Next up, we've got Derek Negative. Derek is currently rank 2, playing largely this Mr. Negative list. It's Negative Destroy. If you're worried about that first list, Negative Destroy absolutely farms the best list in the game. It is, however, dangerous into other things, right? Like Mobius is in that Chamo deck. Magic is dangerous with all the Merlin everywhere. This list isn't perfect, but it is still very strong, largely because you can win a lot of games where you don't have negative once you get good with it. This list is kind of a monster and definitely worth playing. Derek won the first Golden Gauntlet. He's in the Pixel Alliance like Roram, and he's a beast. This deck needs Gore and Ravonna. Esme adds a real threat to this, but she's not needed. She just makes it tier 1 as opposed to tier 2. It would be a B tier deck without Esme, and I think it's an A tier deck with. Cassandra can be is good here. Again, you want a 3 that you can play on 3, and Cassandra's the best at that. Psylocke, Sage, Ironheart, and Killmonger are your possible replacements. Negative gives you, Ravonna gives you play when you don't see negative. That's her real use. She's great in order to get negative. This is a different version. Sorry. This is the standard ass negative. If you don't want to run the destroy version, this is what you run. The other version's better right now, but this version's still really strong. Now, Ravonna gives you gameplay when you don't see Mr. Negative. Let's say you have 7 turns and no negative. You can play Null, Shang something, and then Zola that Null. That's a game win, right? You can play Ravonna, and then you can Mystique and Zola. Or you can play, Gore, and then you can Zola that. You can play Iron Man, and then you can Zola that, and try and win like with a Cassandra Nova and a Jane in other lanes, because Iron Man's doubling all the power you have there. There's a lot of little plays like that, but you need Ravonna for them to really work. Ravonna is the secret most important card in the list. Cassandra Nova is here for 2 reasons, largely to be a 3-on-3. You want something that you can play on turn 3 that you don't feel terrible about later. Getting an 0-3 Cassandra Nova later is perfectly fine. You'll get that 6-7 power out of her when she starts with 3 in the late game, and then you can buff that with Iron Man or whatever else. However, on curve, you just need something to play, and she does that job perfectly well. Also gives you some good play into Arishem. Mystique is here to copy one of 3 cards. You are copying Iron Man, you're copying Gore, you're copying Null. When you do that late game, and that's how you win. Magic gives you an extra turn to make sure you see all your combo pieces, which is very important. Esme is another extra win condition along with Ravonna. Sometimes you get a 3-4 Gore, a 3-4 Null, a 3-4 Iron Man. All of that is crazy strong and can win you the game. She's also obviously an extra shot at drawing Mr. Negative. If you get that 3-cost Shang-Chi, by the way, if you go Ravonna into Esme, into into Null, right? You got you Mystique the Null, and then you Shang something else, and you've usually won that game of Snap. Shang, power must be controlled, and must feed Null. Iron Man is great and huge here. Iron Man is the most consistent card in every negative list. Having an 0-5 Iron Man is completely broken, but even just 5-0 Iron Man is very strong. Jane draws you a ton of cards and is really good to double by Iron Man while also being Shang-proof. Great place to live. Gore is probably the second most important card in the list after Ravonna. Gore into Zola is just a win condition if you have Ravonna. Gore into Mystique is just a win condition if you have 7 turns. Gore is sometimes so big that he just wins games. Zola destroys powerful stuff, which gives you some play for Null, and is also just really useful in terms of spreading out your power. And then, of course, Null is huge in combination with Shang-Chi and Zola at quite a few locations, and thus is able to be a game winner. This is, again, rank 2. This is the main thing Derek is playing right now as the rank 2 player in the world. Turn 1, you want to pass. Turn 2, Ravonna. Turn 3, you can snap on Ravonna. You can threaten negative. Please always snap your negatives. Snap your negative Janes. Turn 3, negative over Esme over Magic. If Esme hits something good, you can snap. Turn 4, negative over Esme over Magic over Iron Man. Turn 5, negative if you already have Magic and have Jane in hand. Is better than Jane if you have negative. Over Gore over Null. And then turn 6 and 7 is just sort of go off and play everything. If you didn't play negative, remember your goal is to try and like Zola Gore or win through Gore Mystique combos. If you can do that, you're going to win the game. Make sure you have Ravonna for that. Don't forget, if you Shang, you can Shang and Mystique reasonably often because of Esme, or on turn 7, you can Shang and Mystique, and if you have Null, that's often game-winning, especially in this meta that's running so many 10 drops. You're often going to get 2 or 3 10 drops in a lane, thanks to the joy of having Nightmare in the meta. We'll talk about Nightmare later. Nightmare's in a B tier deck for now, not quite an A tier, but that'll get, we'll talk about it later. This is the last of the A tier decks. I think this is the smallest A and S tier in the world. But the B tier, we're going to go over 10 decks. Then I'm going to have 5 honorable mentions, and I could easily have 5 to 7 more honorable mentions. I think the B tier is the biggest it's ever been. let's talk some B tier decks. So the S tier is like what sets the meta. It's what I think the best is. The A tier is what has an argument for potentially being S, but is clearly like a step down. Can either beat S or compete into S or compete in, or sort of beat everything in B. And the B tier is just the really, really great decks in the game. The Arishem and Thanos list is still one of the really, really great decks in the game. It is incredibly strong. It's what won Golden Gauntlet 2. It's still a real threat. You might have noticed a lot of Cassandra Nova in the top tier decks. That's sort of what pushes this down. Cassandra Nova is a nightmare for this. The creator of this list is at twitch.tv/RoramPlays, and if you'd like to hear from Roram, he's on the podcast that we'll be releasing either tomorrow or Sunday. And in that podcast, we rank the top 5 cards at each cost slot, and then the top 10 decks in all of Marvel Snap. So hopefully you check that out. This deck needs Arishem, Thanos, and Galacta. Agamotto and Legion can be Vision and Claw. Roram insists that Agamotto is super, super important. I think Agamotto is great, but not super important. Legion is also phenomenal, but you can do with that. Goliath can be Nick Fury. Mockingbird can be She-Hulk. Valentina can be Iron Patriot or Cable. And Surge can be Quinjet. Alright, so Surge gives you just some extra energy. You just want to play stuff, and having extra energy on top of your extra energy from Arishem is usually pretty good. Especially good for Surge is being able to play stones for free. Valentina gives you a nice clear curve. You play the Valentina on 2. You can play whatever Valentina generates on 3 unless it's Infinite, which is pretty damn solid and helps you get ahead. Juggernaut steals cubes right now, especially with less Thanos in the meta. Power and ongoings must be controlled. Your opponent does not know if you have these cards, especially with such a huge deck. This is the 34 card Monty, so the opponent doesn't know if you have them, so they don't always play around them. You get extra cubes. Sometimes you draw a little dead in terms of power. Galacta gives you that, plus Galacta on 3 is a 14 power card. Legion lets you scam out wins that nothing else can. Legion is completely insane. Agamotto plays as a 5/10 to a 5/13. Dropping that on turn 4 is incredible. Having access to images of Icon is often very useful, but the real other spell you want is the Draw Agamotto spell to make sure that you have access to that extra cheap, powerful card. Cheap for this deck. And you also really love the Bolts of Balthak to play absolutely crazy amounts of cards. Goliath protects your stuff and shuts down your opponent's big combos. Mockingbird is a super cheap 9. Thanos is here for 2 reasons. You get a starting Hulk, which is really nice when you don't have to draw it, and it gives you Infinity Stones to draw through your Arishem nonsense. And of course, Arishem gives you the extra energy to do all this stuff. Turn 1, you want draw cards over generate stuff. Turn 2, Valentina generally over Surge, unless you already have Galacta. Turn 3, Galacta or Mockingbird over generate stuff. Turn 4, Legion if you can scam. You should snap on Galacta, Mockingbird, Legion when they're crazy. Or you can drop Agamotto or sometimes even Thanos. Turn 5, Goliath, Thanos, or control cards. And then turn 6 is the same concept as 5. This deck has existed for a while, so we're not going to spend quite as long explaining it, but it is still a top of B tier deck, a still absolute top-notch deck. Be wary of Cassandra Nova all over the place, which can just win a lane out from under you. I don't know if you know this, but I write articles on Marvel Snap Zone. I've had an insanely busy week, so I'm a little slower than I usually am, but I'm doing my very best for an article almost every weekday, 3 to 4 days a week. So come check out Marvel Snap Zone to read some of my stuff. Next up, we've got the Thanos ongoing. This list is really, really solid right now. It doesn't beat the Nimrod stuff. It doesn't beat the Killmonger in the Chamo stuff, and that's what's pushing it down. Because it can compete into anything else. It can beat negative, and it can compete into basically, it can beat all the nightmare stuff. It's it's about as close to A as I can. I think this is better than the Arishem Thanos, but it's slightly lower. It just needs a little bit of luck to do a lot of what it does right now. It's still really big and really strong, just a slight tip down. This is the Eggy version of what was originally Derek's list. You can find Eggy on twitch.tv/121Eggy. This deck needs Thanos, Goliath, Sam, and Mockingbird. Those 4 are required. Wiccan can be Luna, Fastos, or Hope. You do want an energy cheat. And Kara can be Armor or Ant-Man. If you would like another version that puts out more power of this, you're not worried about Killmonger. This is Honifer's version. The aforementioned Honifer played this list last season to great effect. Carter and Captain America add a ton of extra power, as does Speed. Alright, so this version of the list is all about scaling. I've talked about this list for straight up, when did Goliath come out? 2 months ago? For 2 months straight. So let's go quickly. Goliath, Dazzler, and Sam are the key to the deck. They give you cheap cards that scale up in power. Scaling them up in power are Blue Marvel and Spectrum, and the Infinity Stones of Thanos. They're what allow you to fill all the locations of Thanos. They give extra ongoing buffs to Goliath. Cool. Sam Wilson just gives you an extra ongoing card that buffs Goliath, fills a lane, and can be buffed by Blue Marvel and Spectrum. That's the key to the deck. Cosmo helps protect you from Enchantress when you can predict it, and is just a generally useful card to have access to. since it's an ongoing. Mobius is yet another ongoing that gives you play into a lot of the energy cheat decks. It wins mirrors by stopping Mockingbirds and is also incredibly, incredibly useful against, obviously, Mr. Negative. Kyra is your one big hope against Killmonger. Killmonger beats the crap out of this deck, but the other use for it is it helps protect your Thanos and your Mockingbird once it's hit by Blue Marvel. Both of those are very, very useful. Kyra's also really, really solid in that, like, there's just a decent number of locations that you want to be able to play stuff that can't be destroyed into. Super Skrull copies your opponent's stuff, and that's really strong. It could potentially be cut now that we're in a less ongoing heavy meta, but it's so good into the matches it's good into, and you don't have to play everything in this deck. Wiccan gives you the extra energy to do everything you can. Blue Marvel is a 5/14. Spectrum is a 6, usually bigger than 14. Mockingbird is a almost free 9, sometimes actually free 9. And of course, we have Thanos, who is huge and gives access to draw. Turn 1, Stone Draw over it. No Ant-Man anymore, sorry. Turn 2, Sam over Goliath over draw. Turn 3, Mobius or early plays. Kyra is fine. From here on out, you Mockingbird as you can. Turn 4, Wiccan over a combo over early plays. Turn 5, Blue Marvel over Thanos if Wiccan just go off. Turn 6, Spectrum or Blue Marvel Mockingbird or some combo of cheaper stuff. We know this list, right? This list has existed for long enough that this is just a known quality list. I do my best to not fill B tier with known quality lists, but when this is so close to A tier, I felt like I had to. If you're interested, check out a stream at twitch.tv/pulseglazer. I will be streaming all day Saturday, so hope to see you there. Our season pass question is, as always, what is the best deck I missed? There are a lot of decks that are really good right now, so I definitely missed some stuff. Let me know in the comments in order to enter to win the season pass. I'll see you on stream tomorrow. I'll try and stream tonight, but no promises, because I've got to take the kid and the wife to see Elio. All right, Dark Razor's F Nightmare is our next list. This is the debut of the current #1 list in Marvel Snap. Dark Razor is a 15-year-old person who is now ranked #1 in Marvel Snap. He had a different Surfer list, we'll look at in a minute, but what he's playing right now is this version built specifically to beat all the Nightmare decks everywhere. You can find Dark Razor streaming on his summer vacation an awful lot at twitch.tv/DRK_RAZR. This deck does need Galacta and Fenris. Cassandra can be Captain Carter. Hope can be Makari or Luna Snow. Surge can be Zabu. Red Guardian can be Rogue or Mobius. I know that's a lot of high series replacements. Sorry. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So this is the original version that he hit #1 with, that Dark Razor hit #1 with. It's still great, but the Gladiator stuff, well, sorry, not Gladiator stuff, the Moon Knight stuff is not quite as good into the current meta, so it was switched up for the current version. Surge gives you access to an early Galacta or a 3-cost Shang-Chi, both of which are extremely important to the list. The other thing it does is if you don't have Fenris Wolf, you can now play 2/3s fairly often on turn 5, which really helps the list. Fenris is fundamentally tech in this deck. It can help beat that #1 deck. It beats the crap out of Nightmare decks, so on. Dark Razor has kept this deck a secret. This might be an A-tier deck as well, but Dark Razor has kept this deck enough of a secret that it hasn't made the meta. We'll see how its win rate is outside of just Dark Razor's hands in the coming weeks, and I can see this going up to A-tier, maybe even S-tier, because it's got so positive matchups, all right? Like, it's got the Cassandra for the Arishem stuff. It doesn't run Mobius, so negative eats it, but it's got enough power and enough other ways that it can compete with most of the meta. Cassandra is great into Arishem. It also just plays as at least a 3/6 on 3, often much bigger. You do want a second 3 to play on 3, so Cass is great for that. We've got Brood, which is always the best card in Surfer lists. Playing it as just a 3/15 with Galacta and then buffing with Surfer is amazing. Surfer is huge power. Gambit gives you some RNG to win, also really, really great with Fenris. Juggernaut lets you win a lane on the cheap, always important on Surfer, which doesn't put up the most power. Killmonger is basically wreck all the Thanos decks, wreck all the things that are running 1-drops. Red Guardian gives you some play into that, extra play into that Kid Omega stuff, some extra play into like Victoria Hand stuff that's floating, Cerebro stuff that's floating, just a powerful card. Hope has 2 uses. You can do the 2/3s on 5, but you can also do the extra Shang-Chi on 6, which no one ever expects from Surfer. And then, of course, we have Galacta as our big power buff card. Galacta and Surfer are big buffs here. So this is, again, currently rank 1. Turn 1 pass, turn 2 Surge over Fenris. Turn 3 Galacta over Hope over Cass. Turn 4 Galacta. 4 Galacta can still be a snap, but not as guaranteed as 3. Over 3 on Hope. Turn 5, 2 of Red Guardian, Juggernaut, Killmonger, Brood, or one of those 3s and Fenris. Turn 6, Surfer and a 3, or Shang, and then trigger Fenris. Remember that you can play Surfer and Gambit here and then trigger Fenris too. List is kind of a monster. This is really, really strong and really cool. And if you're looking for a Surfer list to play, I know I have a lot of Surfer mains in the viewers. Check this one out. Enjoy it. Happy to debut it for you. This will get its own feature relatively soon as well. It's the rank 1 deck. It deserves it. If you're interested in getting into content creation, my friend BitTwiddle does some of the best work in the business for some of the most affordable prices in the business. Check him out at the email below, please. Next up, we've got Secret Afflict Tech. We'll talk about Sarah later, spoiler. This is our friend Cougar's list. We featured this earlier in the week. It is a update of, he's the original maker of the High Evolutionary Ajax list that you've seen around for months. It's been updated because that list wasn't working as well. It just, like, the change to Hazmat's cost really made things to be a little more awkward for it. Well, the Secret Afflict Tech version from Cougar now solves all those problems, and it's a meta list. You can find Cougar at twitch.tv/Cougar, 2 O's, 3 R's. This deck needs Evo, Laufey, Ajax, Werewolf, Merlin, and Kate. It is expensive, sorry. Nico can be Ham, Rocket Groot can be Jeff, or Nightcrawler. You need something that moves. Alright. If you want another version, Burrs has this High Evolutionary free version that is really, really good, and I've had a lot of success with. It, instead of getting that power from Abomination, says I'll just scale up early power with my Sam Wilson and Silk packages. This list is just about as good as the other list, but this one is very reliant on seeing Sam Wilson on turn 2 or turn 3. If it doesn't, the game feels very, very different. Alright, let's talk about this list. Wasp has several uses here. So A, it's amazing to shuffle into the deck with Merlin for extra energy. B, it moves Werewolf for free. C, if in played with Laufey on a full lane, Wasp in another lane, it can get you a free Abomination. For those reasons, it's incredible in this list. It's also a really good target for Nico's Draw 2 or Turn into a Demon spells. Hit Bishop gives you more targets for that Nico stuff, while also giving you some 1-drops to move around Werewolf. In a pinch, the Grapple Arrow can move a card on turn 5 to allow 1-cost Miles. Merlin allows you have Wasp, Nico, Kate's cards to all shuffle back into the deck with Merlin. You can also turn any of them into 1 cost higher, but you can also turn a used Hazmat into a cost higher, or a used High Evolutionary into a cost higher as well with Merlin. The other use is obviously location changes, just nice to have access to. It can also move Werewolf around without clogging the board. Rocket Groot is your second mover along with Werewolf to make Miles cheaper, and it also makes your Ajax bigger and Abomination better. Hazmat is your turn 5 key play. If you can play Hazmat, they have 5 cards, you have Abomination Ajax, you usually win that game. Werewolf moves, moving around cards is good, moving around card that gets a ton of power, good. Make Miles cheap, happy. Laufey is here kind of your backup Hazmat. If you can get your opponent to fill a lane, and Rocket Groot really helps your opponent, force your opponent to do that. Laufey can take 4 power, making your Abomination a 1, letting you play with Ajax at the end of the game, giving you a decent sized Ajax. If you can do that with Wasp, ideally moving Werewolf, you can get the free Abomination Ajax Miles thing. Miles is great for obvious reasons, right? A 1/6 is a card we're happy to play. Evolutionary is the cost of getting Abomination and Wasp into the list. Giving Wasp an on-reveal is key here. It's also just, if you get High Evolutionary, 4/7 is decent. You're not super in love with turning that into a 5-drop, but it's also not the worst idea. Ajax is humongous, which is, great to have. It's one of the biggest cards in the game if you play Hazmat, especially without Prio on turn 5. And then free 9 is a card we play, right? So turn 1 pass, turn 2 Merlin over Kate, turn 3 Werewolf over Rocket Groot. Turn 4 we want a 2/2 or Laufey. Turn 5 Hazmat is better than Laufey and Wasp. And then turn 6 we want Ajax, Abomination, Miles, and we've won the game. Tons of power, tons of utility. This one's really, really great. I don't think it goes quite tall enough to beat the Nimrod stuff. I think Negative eats it alive, but against most of the mid-rangey stuff in the meta, if you can throw Prio, you can beat almost anything. My wife has this wonderful Instagram channel. It's called the Crystal B 21 on Instagram, where she sells handcrafted jewelry. Please do check it out. It would mean a lot to us if you were interested in buying anything there. Next up, we've got our friend Skaar's Thanos Skaar list. This one has taken over the Thanos Strange Supreme Control list as the best version of non-ongoing Thanos. I do think ongoing Thanos is better, but this one puts up a lot of points and has the ability to run like Shadow King and a couple extra cards to really win. Rest in peace to our friend Skaar, who unfortunately passed earlier this week. This deck needs Skaar, Thanos, Strange, Surtur, and Cull Obsidian. Sam can be Surge Iron Patriot, and Mockingbird can be Sasquatch. So Strange Supreme obviously is really good in Thanos. That's his main deck right now. The other thing Strange Supreme has real use for is Strange Supreme is really, really great at getting to 10 power and making your Skaar cheaper in the game. Sam Wilson helps that Strange Supreme do that while also just being a decent card in itself. It makes Mockingbird cheaper. It's not terribly important here. It's probably the least important card on the list, but it is still good. Shadow King takes down big things that nothing else does. You have room for 2 tech cards. I guess 3 tech cards, like Shadow King, Armor, and Cosmo, so you run Shadow King as a way to win. Armor and Cosmo make this probably the best deck against the S tier deck in the meta because you can, if you can figure out where they're going to play that Nimrod, Armor wins. Cosmo and Shadow King are both really good in that matchup too. In certain situations, if they don't have the Kid Omega, for example, Cosmo's amazing. So you have all that stuff going for you. Plus, they protect all your 10s and you're running melee 10s. This is the best Surtur. Surtur has been since Surtur was nerfed, largely because you get the extra Thanos to buff it on turn 5, all but guaranteed. Plus, like the Atuma Crossbones, Cull stuff is still really, really strong here. It's getting to like 11 to 13 power, but it's doing so at the end of the game, so it's not benefiting Skaar, but it's benefiting everything else. Atuma has plenty of stuff to blow up. It can be played on armor if you don't want to blow stuff up, but hey, blowing stuff up with Atuma is fine. It gets you, especially Infinity Stones, that gets you extra draw. Crossbones is a 4/10, that's pretty big. Playing it on the Strange Supreme lane often feels like cheating. You have 1-drops from Thanos, so you can play Cull. Mockingbird is when you don't see Strange Supreme, a free-ish 9, and if you see Strange Supreme, it's still pretty cheap. If you can play it and get it to 10 power, so much the better. Thanos is a 5 or 6/12 that often can be played anywhere, not destroyed, which is great. And Skaar in this list is a 1, 2, 3/12, and we love having access to that stat line. Alright, so this overtook Control Thanos this week for the first time ever. Way to go, Scott. Turn 1 draw, and once you've started drawing with this list, you can start considering snapping, and if you're playing against a Thanos list that's not drawing, you can consider snapping. The draw is so important for this list. Turn 2 is Strange Supreme over Armor equals Sam equals draw. Turn 3 is Surtur or over a 2 or Cosmo. Turn 4 is a 4/10. Turn 5 is Thanos or a 4/10 and draw. Turn 6 is Skaar and a big Shadow King. If you miss playing those Surtur Skaar decks, if you miss those big dumb idiot decks, play this, win with it, and add a 727 for your name to honor our friend. If you're interested in Marvel Snap tournaments, we host a bunch of small ones on our server, just 1-2 hour quickies called the King of the Hill tournaments. Come check them out if you are at all interested. Next up, Jets buy one, take one. When we figure out how Kid Omega fits in this list, this might end up in S tier. Because this list has like a 61% win rate in 400 games. Jet is currently ranked 5 with this. This list is a monster. It's not the easiest thing in the world to play, so that might keep it down, but this list is a monster. It's also the best Victoria hand list in the game by a lot. You can find Jet at twitch.tv/Jet13, that's 5 E's. This deck needs Cast, Phoenix Force, Misery, Surge, and Nico, which makes it reasonably expensive, but a lot of those are older cards that people have. Elixir or Firehair can be Carnage, and eventually you can run Kid Omega, although I do think you're going to really want Elixir the more time goes on. Frigga can be Morgan Le Fay. Alright, so you can win several ways here. You can win by like going kind of crazy with like Firehair, Cassandra Nova, Elixir, Phoenix Force stuff, or you can win by giving yourself 1,000 demons in Victoria hand. Cool. You can play the Hood, you can play Firehair, then you can Misery or Venom, and now you have 1,000,000 demons. You play Victoria hand, you probably win. You can also, if you don't have the Firehair, you can Phoenix Force back the Hood, and then you can get extra demons that way as well. Nice and simple, right? Echo helps you control against ongoings. Cosmo is a nightmare for this list, and it stops that, also just being a generally powerful card to a lot of the meta. Nico gives you an extra way to blow up the demon, and an extra way to copy cards. Copying cards is extremely important here. We'll talk about that more as we go. Surge makes things cheaper. It's not important. It's just nice to have. Elixir is great once you blow something up with Venom or Misery. Bring it back the next turn. In particular, bringing back a Cassandra Nova the next turn is insanely strong. You can sometimes get 3 or 4 Cassandra Nova triggers, which is wild. You can play Firehair, play Cassandra Nova, right? Play Misery on it, play Elixir, and you're good to go. You'd rather generally play Phoenix Force at that point to make it movable, but you're fine. You can also sometimes Frigga that when things go really crazy with extra energy type stuff. Alright, so Firehair gives you extra demons or gives you extra triggers of Cassandra Nova. Both are great. Hitting an extra Venom isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's usually not what you're trying to do. Victoria Hand is a buff to largely demons in this list, but you're pretty happy with that. It can also, if you frigga an important card, copy those. The cards you want to frigga, the cards you want most is Cassandra Nova. It's just a way to get more Cassandra Novas. You're pretty happy if you can go Cassandra Nova, frigga Cassandra Nova, and figure out how to get a demon out in there. Say Surge nonsense or other lucky ways, extra energy wise. And then you can like Venom that, and then you can play Phoenix Force and Elixir. You're just crazy strong. Especially if Fire Herb is out. Usually not though. Then Nico probably makes that a little easier, right? If you can Nico the Cassandra Nova, then you can play the second Cassandra Nova and Venom, and then you can do the the Elixir Phoenix Force. Just go crazy. All right, whatever. But then we've got Venom, which is a great way to destroy Cassandra Nova and keep the power to get just even more procs for all that stuff. Frigga can copy that Cassandra Nova or that Venom or even a demon. Phoenix Force and Elixir bring stuff back, and Misery is the way to kill it and then get extra triggers for that on reveal along with Fire Hair. This deck's power is kind of redundancy, right? Fire Hair and Misery sort of provide redundancy. Elixir and Phoenix Force provide redundancy. Nico and Frigga provide redundancy. And sort of in a weird way, Victoria Hand and Cassandra Nova provide redundancy, giving you two different game plans. Rank 5, Hood over Echo, Surge or Fire Hair over Vicky Hand. Turn 3 is Cass over 2. Then we've got Misery or Frigga Venom, Phoenix Force, Misery Hood, or Elixir Hand, and then Demon's Hand, whatever. And if you played your Misery or your Venom on 5, you can now Elixir on turn 6. Chef's Kiss. Jet is a beast. I love when Jet really, really cooks. And this deck, again, will get better once we figure out exactly how Kid Omega fits into it. Enjoy it now, though, because this is, again, if you are capable of playing it, can play it at A tier level, even though it is in the B tier. Weekend Mission decks. Weekend Mission decks are almost by definition B tier decks, so let's look at 2. First, for Merlin, who is one of the top 10 cards on Marvel Snap right now. I don't think he's number 1, but I don't think he's worse than 5, so Merlin is a card you definitely want to own. You can try and win him on this video if you haven't bought him yet. We're going to talk about Ika's Miracle List. This list is really good into the meta right now. It answers an awful lot of stuff in an awful lot of powerful ways, putting up more power than basically everything but the Nimrod stuff, which it dies to, but it's good against basically everything else. Shadow King is absolutely incredible. Being able to hide Shadow King behind Invisible Woman, Shang-Chi, Enchantress, Killmonger behind Invisible Woman wins you a lot of matchups really, really simply. Surge gives you extra energy. We do love getting our Gwenpool out early here, but our main thing we're trying to do is make 4 drops cost 3. Shang and Enchantress for 3 is way better. For 2 with Sarah is even better than that. Invisible Woman is a fine play on 2, but even you can play it on 2, you can play it on 5 if you don't have Sarah, and you can play it on 6 after Sarah if you have Prio. Merlin gives you access to extra energy, particularly useful, again, if you don't have that Sarah on 5, but turning cards that are used, Shang, Enchantress, and Sarah, into a bigger card is amazing. Also, having extra 1-drops for Hitmonkey. Mysterio works with 3 different cards here. It's amazing at buffing Bishop and Hitmonkey, and it's amazing to be hit by Gwenpool. It's also, I guess, a decent target to put in decks with Merlin, or to transform into 1 more cost with Merlin. Monger, Shang, Enchantress are your control pieces. Monkey and Bishop are your power pieces. Gwenpool helps spread power, make the deck a little more unpredictable. And Sarah is the most important card, which lets you go completely off in the last turn. Twitch.tv/Ika_MTS with this. He's got a 70% win rate, as does our friend Toxic Soul King right now. This needs Gwenpool, Hitmonkey, and Merlin. Surge can be Kale. Alright, Ika's Miracle. Oh, Surge can also be Zabu here, sorry. Wait, what? Where's our turn by turn? There's our turn by turn. We talked about all the cards already. 70% win rate in over 40 games. It's now the games are much higher. The win rate has remained. Turn 1 pass. Turn 2 Merlin equals Surge over Invisible Woman, which can be held. Turn 3 Bishop over Gwenpool over 2. Turn 4 Gwenpool, and if we hit Mysterio or other good targets, we can snap. Or Bishop over Bishop, or a control card if you have a good target and must. Like if they played Mobius, you play Enchantress. Turn 5 Sarah, snap on Sarah if you don't have anything stopping you, over Visible in a 3, Monger or a cheaper Shang Enchantress. Subtype Shadow King. Turn 6 Monkey, Mysterio control card, and remember to make Sarah a 6 with Merlin when you can. What a deck, what a deck, what a deck. I didn't realize how good Merlin was with Sarah, because Sarah gives you the ability to play a bunch of stuff, and then still make Sarah a 6-drop, and that's just so strong. Play this list, move this list, you're going to love it. Next up, we got Nightmare. Nightmare is a genuinely great card, despite being a 3-1. I think that this is a card you're going to want to own if you like playing either Black Knight decks, or you like playing the Red Skull style decks. Now, We covered the Black Knight deck yesterday and Tuesday, so we're not going to cover that again. I think that might be the best Nightmare list. It is a strong argument whether the Nightmare list or this next list is the best way to play Nightmare. I think both are genuinely B-tier decks and excellent. We've got Zenaid's Pure Sauron Nightmare. This is our debut of this. Whenever I need a Sauron list, I just message Zenaid. He's the only 30 Mastery Sauron player I know. He's been near the top of the Infinite Leaderboard with Sauron. He always comes up with the best list for this damn thing. So he decided that this is where he wants to go as far as just the most straightforward, good, put out idiots version. Merlin is absolutely amazing with Nightmare because you can turn Nightmare into a 4-drop, or you can get rid of some of your negative abilities by making them cost 1 more. You can find Zenaid at twitch.tv/ZenaidTFT. This deck needs Nightmare, Merlin, Starbrand, and Merlin twice. Nightmare, Starbrand, Merlin, and Cull. Nope, Cull can be Crossbones, Surge can be Zebu. I don't know why I wrote Merlin twice. Silly. Maybe I'll stop coughing one day. Alright, Sauron makes things like Starbrand, Typhoid, and Red Skull easy to play. You're not always going to have all of them when you have Nightmare, and so Sauron is needed. Zero is your other way to take care of those, and Ebony Maw. Surge makes things cheaper. Making things cheaper is good. It just goes in decks because that's a good thing to have. Merlin is crazy strong for obvious reasons. The location control is great, but turning cards into 1 more when they don't have a negative ability is amazing. Getting rid of Nightmare is extra amazing. Very often your turn 3 will be Nightmare, your turn 4 will be like a Cull, and then your turn 5 will be like a Typhoid Mary or a Sentry that got hit by Nightmare, and then turning Nightmare into a 4-drop. Lizard is incredible here. It's a 2/6 that often doesn't have a negative ability. You're happy to run those. Nightmare is genuinely great. This season's cards are nuts, and Nightmare is another one of them. Maw, Starbrand, Sentry, Cull, Typhoid, Red Skull. You're happy with any of those. Sentry, Merlin gives you access to an extra 5-drop with Sentry. That's how you play it if you don't have Nightmare. And other than that, you're just happy to play a 4/9. Gives you a little bit of strong protection. Starbrand is a 3/10, amazing stats. Cull is a 4/10, amazing stats. Typhoid is a 4/10, amazing stats. Red Skull is a 5/14, amazing stats. And you don't want their negative abilities. You have Zero, Sauron, and Nightmare for that. Turn 1 Sauron, turn 2 Surge or Merlin, depends on what you have. I generally go Merlin, or over Lizard or Zero for Starbrand. Turn 3 is Nightmare, over a 2+ Merlin spell, or a 4 for 3. Turn 4 is Nightmare and a Merlin spell, Cull or Typhoid, Sentry if they don't have their negative abilities. Turn 5 Red Skull or Starbrand and a 2. Sometimes it's a 4-drop and a Polymorph. And then turn 6 is a 4 plus Lizard or Maw, or Red Skull and Maw, as the case may be, and you win, because this is stupid. This is tons of power. If you just want to beat mid-range and pound people about the head, enjoy Nightmare and enjoy that Thanos Bliss from Skaar, and you'll have a great time just going, smash. Just remember that, like, combo decks are going to go over the top of you, and you should run from them, unless you get really good Nightmare pulls anyway. Question of the day, as always for this video, is the honorable mentions. And I just want to note Kochia Master Bullseye, the original day 1 Alexander Kochia Bullseye list is still doing really great. Sometimes Grandmaster becomes Moon Girl, if you are interested in trying that. But outside of that, this list is still stellar. It's still top of the line. There's less Mobius, so this list is back. That's kind of how that's going to work. Bounce Move is still great. Sizer got bored of it finally and stopped playing it after 6 months, but Heart of the Cards is now basically maining this list. Heart of the Cards Snap, by the way, is a YouTube channel, and I didn't know, so check that out too. But Bounce Move, the Sizer list, is still one of the best decks in the game. It's also one of the hardest decks to play in the game. It's in Honorable Mention, still in B tier. Everything in Honorable Mention is B tier, just as good as all the B tier decks, but I'm not going to do a 40 card guide video. This is already long enough, right? Next up, we got Danish Hela. Again, we've seen this list forever. Kaera is now the swing spot in the list. It's still super great. It's still really good. There's much less interaction now. There's much less of the stuff that gives this a hard time, and so this list is coming back in a fairly major way. The standard bounce, I think that this is Derek's, but I could be wrong. This is the highest win rate list I didn't feature. I'm not 100% sure. Let me know if you know whose this is. My guess is Derek, because I've seen Derek play versions that are like a card off this in the past. Literally, Agent Venom for Werewolf by Night, I believe, was the change that Derek had. But This list is one of the highest win rate lists in the games. The highest win rate list that we didn't feature in this video. I think Bounce is in a good place. I'm a little surprised to see it doing so well, to be perfectly honest. And that's part of why it's not here. I'm going to need a little bit more testing before I believe. Because I'm not sure how this beats Nightmare stuff, for example. Then Ika told me to put this in here. Ika says, okay, so bluntly, Mercury has been less impressive than thought. Mercury is a good card, but it turns out Cannonball is great without Mercury, so you don't really need to do all that Mercury stuff. If you're still doing it, enjoy it. It's still good. It's just not required. Cannonball is perfectly fine to splash in a million decks, and it's really, really great in this deck. So Scream is back because Mercury is sort of is good, but not incredible. Thank goodness. So this deck is back. It's got all the scaling from Batrock and Sam and Craven and stuff, right? And if they play Mercury, you just run and you're fine. Hellion is amazing here. Hellion's use is, if you've got that Craven stuff out, you play Hellion, you move Craven and 2 other cards there, and now your Craven is stupidly huge, your Hellion is stupidly huge, you've won that lane. Now you can Cannonball or Shang to win another, or drop Stomper or whatever to win another. You've got this stupidly big Stomper, because now that Stomper saw all the Hellion moves too, and you're just kicking all sorts of butt. Hellion's really, really cool here, and I love this list, and Ika swears by it. He's got a smaller sample size with it, but it's our last honorable mention. I really hope this is back and legit. Our friend Perry Manilow will cry, but it'll be okay. Search your support on our Patreon. Come with honor. Thanks. I'm going to thank people quickly because this video is crazy long and I am tired. Thank you to Breaks to Click, Abigail Giesland, Mentor, Burnout, Regardless, LAB, Inc., Iron Frostman, Hota Navidete, Prime Brian, Ryan Burke, Ryan Wood Snap, Renrunch, Kertix Lee, Koire, Kazushi, Archangel 3K, Black Dahlia, Parafrost, The Goat Seeker, Code, Hallowed, Only Fox, Synth, Fat Nick, Absolute Shannon, Nightmare, Dirty Casual, Mr. Kerfuffle, Cables, Ginger Prime, Philly, Philip Bragovich, Haplo, Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone, The Beza, Black Jeebus 23, Exos V, and Skippy G, Rhyming Friends, Jessica Gamble, Sup Jess, Mr. Slush Death, The King of Bros, The Great Kazoo, Werewolf, Kepsi Hoda, Clam, Colonel Forbin. We don't have our new friend. I'm using an older version of this, am I not? Yeah, I'm using an older version of this, apparently. I'm really sorry. I thought I updated it. Alright, some people are going to get thanked for the last time here. My bad. Rob Silverman, David G. Wingfield, Stephen, Brian Kaufman, Tristan H. Martin, Jason B., Mr. Craig Sterry, Matt V., Corey, Corwin, John Q, Jimmy Q, Stout Ace Age, What Big Man, Milkman for Reels, Cactus Jack, Reaper, Yo Marco, Quid Pro Joe, Snap Decisions Joe, check out Snap Decisions Podcast, DeCarlo220, check him out on Twitch, please. Also, way back, Ryan Wood Snap over on YouTube, Models, Mod Supreme, Bickety Boom Bop, Green Goblin, Unibot V2 over on the YouTube side of things, the Flanman 56, the Fuzzy Lum, Spectrumix, Woot, Ocularis, Matt H, DJ, Mikey, Hycheek, Snow Frickin' Flex, Nick, the Greek Geek on Twitch once in a while, the Toxic Soul King on Twitch all the time, Zodric74 on Twitch for short bursts but really great gameplay, King of Canada, JJ on YouTube and Twitch, Deadman Falcon is just YouTube, Fathor Newman is YouTube and Twitch and hopefully feeling better, Jonesy Snap, the most underrated YouTube in the game, Two Ties of the 5th of July's, the great Lauren Dowes. Snap on this podcast, the Pirate King Tucker of Twitch and YouTube and podcasts and everywhere else, and of course Gunny T, where the T stands for. Alright, I'm tired. Hopefully you enjoyed this, because I put a lot of work into it. I care. Hopefully you do too. Peace.